Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a really complex, century-long journey, the story of Black characters in Japanese animation. It's a wild ride, honestly, moving from some really harmful caricatures all the way to creators who are now defining the industry.
So let's start with a question that really gets to the heart of it for a lot of people. What happens when you love a genre that doesn't always love you back? I mean, this is the core of the relationship for so many Black anime fans. It's this medium that's loved by millions, but it has a really complicated and, frankly, a deeply flawed history with representation. So, to really get a handle on where this all started, we have to look somewhere you might not expect. Our story actually doesn't begin in Japan. Nope, it starts with what was being imported from America.
Okay, so you have to put yourself in their shoes. Early Japanese artists had very little, if any, direct exposure to people of African descent. So what did they do? Well, they relied on what they saw. And what they saw was imported American media. The problem? That media was just saturated with racist propaganda and minstrel show imagery. And that, right there, created the foundation of harmful caricatures that would define these portrayals for decades.
And the source of all this? American minstrelsy. We're talking about a 19th century form of entertainment where white performers in blackface popularized these incredibly dehumanizing caricatures. You know the ones, the exaggerated lips, the jet black skin, the simplistic personalities. This whole visual language, the burnt cork look, the white ringed eyes, it got translated directly into animation, not just in the US, but in Japan too.
And wow, here's where you can see it plain as day. The connection is just undeniable. On one side, you've got the American minstrel trope. On the other, an early anime character like Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball. Just look at the visual parallels. The jet black skin, the big rounded lips. It's a direct one-to-one translation of these harmful designs into a completely new medium. It's pretty shocking when you see it side by side like this.
So as the civil rights movement gained steam in the US in the 40s, studios started feeling the pressure. They had a choice, right? They could either improve representation or do something else. And unfortunately, a lot of them took the easy way out. Instead of creating better, more authentic characters, they just got rid of Black characters altogether. For decades, this created what some scholars call culturecide, a massive vacuum, a total erasure from animation that lasted for almost 25 years.
Okay, so let's move on. That erasure, that vacuum, it thankfully wasn't the end of the story. Things started to change. It was a long, slow road for sure. But it marked a real turn toward complexity, and it was all thanks to pioneering artists and activists who started pushing for something better.
And this timeline really helps us see how that change started to happen. In 1957, you've got Floyd Norman, the first African-American animator at Disney. A huge deal. Then in '72, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids comes out, and it's all about positive stories. But what's really fascinating is that by the late 80s, there was an activist group in Japan, the Association to Stop Racism Against Black People, that successfully got publishers to revise characters like Mr. Popo. That's direct action leading to real change in some of the biggest franchises out there.
And this is where things get really interesting, because we're not just talking about appearances anymore. We're talking about depth. Creators started moving beyond stereotypes to develop these really nuanced characters. You get Casca in Berserk, who's this incredibly capable warrior with a super complex psychological story. Or Yoruichi from Bleach, a powerful, respected noble with so much agency. And then you have characters like Muhammad Abdul from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, who's depicted with just dignity and wisdom. And of course, Afro Samurai, a hit series with a black lead voiced by Samuel L. Jackson. These weren't just side characters or caricatures anymore. They were a huge deal.
All right, all of that progress brings us to the modern era, and this is where we see the most crucial shift of all. It's a revolution in ownership, moving from just being in the story to being the one who actually builds the story, from subject to architect.
So, what's behind this revolution? A huge part of it is the rise of what's known as blurred culture. A mix of Black and nerd. It's this amazing, powerful community of Black fans and creators who are super into anime, comics, all of it. And they've done two really important things. One, they've created a massive demand for better, more authentic stories. And two, they've built a community to support and lift up the creators who are making them.
And let's be clear, this push for ownership isn't just about culture. It's a massive economic issue. Get this, the media sector loses an estimated $10 billion a year. Why? Because they're undervaluing and underrepresenting Black content and creators. I mean, $10 billion. That's not just a statistic, that is a powerful, powerful business case for making a change.
And this right here, this is the solution. This is what's happening now. Black creators are done waiting for a seat at the table, they're building their own damn table. They're building their own infrastructure all over the world. You've got D'ART Shtajio, the very first Black-owned anime studio in Tokyo. Then there's Lionforge Entertainment in North America, which won an Oscar for Hair Love. And you've got Kugali, a Pan-African studio that co-produced Iwaju with Disney. This is creators taking control, from Tokyo to the US to the entire continent of Africa.
So now we get to the really critical part. Because having ownership isn't just about telling different stories. It's about how you tell them. It's about the architecture of authenticity. And this isn't some fluffy concept about good intentions. No, it's a technical skill. It's a craft. It's a very specific design philosophy for how to create characters that feel real. Okay, so how do the pros do it? Well, there's a process, and it starts with a big no. You have to reject what's called the color swap. This is the lazy way out, where an artist just takes a generic, pre-existing character design and slaps a darker skin tone on it. That's not authenticity. Real, authentic design has to be built from the ground up, thinking about melanin, light, hair physics, the whole shebang.
This table is fantastic because it breaks down the actual specific anatomical details. So instead of the default sharp, V-shaped jaw or that simple vertical line for a nose you see in a lot of anime, authentic design thinks differently. It means designing a wider bridge for the nose, a rounded tip, nostrils that are oriented more horizontally. For lips, it's not just a single line. It's about defining the upper and lower planes to show volume. It's about embracing a whole range of jaw structures that actually reflect the incredible diversity of phenotypes in the African diaspora.
All right, let's get a little technical here because this is so important. Getting skin tone right is all about color theory. A super common mistake artists make is creating shadows by just making the base color grayer. They desaturate it, and that gives you that flat, lifeless, ashy look. The right way to do it is to actually shift the hue. So you start with your base brown, and for the shadows, you move it toward a deep reddish purple or navy blue. See? That's what creates that rich, vibrant depth.
And then there's hair. And listen, the physics are just completely different. You can't animate coily or kinky hair the same way you animate straight hair. Animators have to learn to think in terms of mass and blocks of volume, not tiny individual strands. You have to understand the internal rhythm of braids and locks. You have to capture the look of a jagged or coily line. And you absolutely have to nail critical cultural signifiers like a crisp lineup at the temple. That's what makes a character feel truly modern and real. And really, this quote from our source material just says it all. It perfectly captures the ultimate goal of this entire evolution. The point isn't just to fix the mistakes of the past. It's to move beyond the struggle narrative, to create a world where Black characters in anime can just be. They can be heroes, villains, scientists, royalty, whatever. And their Blackness is just a rich, beautifully rendered part of their identity, not the entire reason for their existence on screen.
So, this all leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. When you have Black-owned studios in Tokyo, Pan-African creators making deals with Disney, and animators from every corner of the globe mastering this art form, what does anime even mean anymore? Is the idea of a Japanese anime soon going to be defined by its art style and not its geography? It really feels like the very definition of the medium is transforming right before our eyes.